Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got another new shell that we've never tried before, so I'm definitely curious to see what kind of results we can get out of it. It's one that several of you guys have requested to see as well, so when I finally found some, I had to pick them up so we could bring them out here and test them and see what we could actually get out of them. But as for the shell we've got out here today, I brought out some of these. These are some Winchester Super X 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 16 pellet load of 1 buck shells moving about 1250 feet per second, and I don't think we've really done anything as far as 1 buck testing goes, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what these can give us as for an actual pattern. 1 buck is just a little bit smaller than double aught, so we do get those couple extra pellets in the load, but will that fill in the pattern and make it a nice beautiful even spread, or are those just going to be more flyers all over the place? I don't know. It's definitely going to be pretty interesting to see what we can get out of these shells. And as for the setup we've got to run them through today, I brought out the Remington 1187 here with the factory full choke, which has kind of been our baseline tester for most buckshot shells. So I figured this is a good place to start with, and we'll see what kind of pattern we get, and we can move up or down in constriction from here based on what we see. But this has been a very reliable setup combination for the vast majority of buckshot. So if these are decent shells, we should at least get a somewhat decent pattern out of this combo. But as for the test today, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the big sheet of paper at 40 yards. I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity out of the shell, and I've got a few templates that we can lay up over our target to get the better reference point as to how they would have done in some real life scenarios. So let's get you guys a view of this target and take this shot and just see what kind of a baseline we're able to get out of these Super X 16 pellet 1 buck shells through the stock full choke in this 1187 today. Okay, so that round gave us 1226 through the chrono. The box claim is 1250, so we're only 24 under that box claim. So I'm thinking we're pretty much seeing what we should be seeing, that low to mid 1200s range. That's what I would expect to see out of these shells. So definitely nothing too strange to see up here as far as velocity goes, but what kind of a pattern did they actually give us down at 40 yards? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Unfortunately, we were just a touch off to the right and maybe a touch high. I do think that was probably me. I don't think it was the actual setup. But that's why we have the big giant sheet of paper, so we can still see everything. And we did have all 16 pellets on the paper here. As you can see, we have a pretty decent spread of them. Definitely not scattered all over the place. It might not be quite as tight as something like a flight control load of 9 pellet would be or something like that, but that's not bad. Now, the lower half is definitely a little bit tighter and a little bit hotter than the upper half of the pattern. As you can see, the top few are kind of strung out while these bottom few are kind of nice and tight in there together. So maybe we could call that a couple of flyers or strings up at the top. But either way, the overall size of the pattern is 21¼ inches, and that is from the very top pellet to that very bottom pellet down there. But of course, the main core area of the pattern is a little bit smaller than that if you discount the couple little strings up at the top. So definitely not off to a bad start here at all. That is absolutely a usable hunting pattern. So definitely not looking terrible here to start out with, that's for sure. But let's throw a couple templates up here and see what we actually got in some more real life type of scenarios. Okay, here's our 10-inch circle, and if we line it up with the central area of our pattern, as you can see, we had 5 pellets within there. Now, if we were to scoot that template down just a tiny little bit more, we would probably have about 7 or 8 of those pellets in there. But as for an actual core of our pattern, right in the middle, we had 5. Definitely not too bad, but there is a little bit of unevenness as well. As you can see, the bottom half has several more pellets than the top half does. So the pattern isn't perfectly even as for a spread, but still 5 pellets of 1 buck flying down range at over 1200 feet per second is going to be just fine in that 10-inch vital sized area on whatever you would need it for. So not looking too bad there, but let's throw the deer template up now and see what would have happened if you would have taken this particular shot on a deer out in the field. Okay, and here's that deer template, and if we line it up with where our point of aim would have been out in the field, we had 13 out of the 16 pellets that would have hit this deer. Well, I guess you could say probably 14 because there is one right in the middle of the neck over there as well, just behind the template edge. So probably at least 14. And if we would have centered that pattern up just a little bit better, we probably could have had just about all of them actually hit the deer. So clearly, that deer is not going to make it very far at all, if anywhere. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there, even though it's not perfectly even. There's definitely a little bit of stringy stuff up at the top, but I like what I'm seeing here. You have a nice spread, but it still gives you a little bit of leeway without being completely scattered all over the place. And clearly you're going to absolutely hammer those vital areas with a bunch of pellets. So that is a perfectly usable hunting pattern. I think we might be able to tune it in just a slight bit better with the right choke, but if you just had a stock full choke and these shells to hunt with, it seems like you would have a pretty nice and plenty usable enough pattern out to 40 or 50 yards. But real quick, let's throw the hog template up just to see what it looks like. I think it's going to be the same story, but we'll put it up and glance at it just to take a look anyway. Okay, and here's that hog template, and as you can see, we had 12 pellets actually hit him, and that hog is not going to go anywhere on you, that's for sure. Absolutely a dead hog all day long, no question about it. I mean, that's what, at least 7 or 8 of them right through the main vital area right there. So definitely a very solid pattern. It's not perfect, like I've already said a couple times. We do have a couple little flyers up at the top, but with the right choke, we might be able to tune those in just a little bit better. Either way, I don't think we can argue too much with that kind of a result. It's absolutely a good usable hunting pattern that we can't complain too much about, that's for sure. Okay, and here's the wad out of that shell, and I gotta be honest, I did not expect these to have a wad. The box didn't claim it or show it in any of the diagrams, and based on the Winchester buckshot shells that we've kind of shot previously, not very many of them have had wads, so seeing this is a pretty decent surprise, and I definitely think it helped hold our pattern together a little bit. Now, it's definitely not perfectly even here, it's got a little bit of a twist to it, but that could have been from hitting the ground for all we know. But it's definitely a little bit of an interesting design, and something I have not seen in a Winchester shell yet. The inside of the petals have these like ribs on them, kind of like the outside of one of those low bore contact turkey style wads. And the base here is really thick, and every bit of this is just a big solid plastic piece. So definitely a pretty interesting design that I think did okay, all things considered, for today's test. I was just a little bit surprised to see it, and it's clearly something a little bit different compared to what we've seen out of previous Winchester shells. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? I don't think we can really complain too much about it. It's a very nice, very solid, usable hunting pattern that I wouldn't be scared to run out to 40 to 50 yards on a deer or a hog or whatever the case would be. It's not perfect. We definitely saw a little bit of unevenness. The bottom area of the pattern is a little bit hotter than the top. Maybe a flyer or two up there at the top as well. So it's not perfect. Maybe we can tune that in just a little bit better with a different choke. Maybe the Kicks buck kicker would really like these. I don't know. Either way, that is a very solid start for these. Just going through our factory baseline full choke type of setup. So as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Winchester 1 buck shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen out of them? Would you hunt with that kind of a pattern? Is there another choke or setup combo that you want to see these through, or that you've seen do a lot better with these that you want to see us test? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.